Welcome in everyone to another Baldur's Gate 3 build video. I am Senpai Zaya. Thank you so much for being here today. So I have a quick question for you. Have you ever dreamed about being the ultimate monk that can raise an undead army, do an insane amount of damage, and cast an insane amount of really powerful spells? Well, whether you have or haven't, I'm sure you're at least a little intrigued. So without further ado, let's hop right into the video. So you guys know I always like to start my build videos off with a little build overview. So for this build, we are going to combine all of the raw damage, output, and utility that a monk brings to the table, as well as the utility from a druid, the crowd control from the druid, the insane spells of a druid, and the extra damage that the druid brings as well. So what this all means is that we are going to be a frontline damage dealer. We're going to be in the front lines. We're going to be outputting an insane amount of damage, whether it be single target or AoE. We're still going to have really good damage, and we're also going to bring a ton of CC and crowd control options to the table. And last but certainly not least, this build is going to be incredibly fun to play. So hopping in the character customization, we have a lot of really good options for our race. I'm going to go with Wood Elf because I like the 5 feet extra movement speed that Wood Elves provide, but you can feel free to choose literally whatever you want. For the sake of this video, we are going to be taking our first level in Druid. So for your cantrips, you are going to take Thorn Whip, so that way you can make enemies bring that booty over here, and then you are going to take Chalet. Chalet is really nice because we are going to get our wisdom up to 20, and we are also going to be using a quarterstaff as our primary weapon for the majority of our playthrough. Alright, so moving on to the level 1 spells, you have a lot of really good options here. However, the options that I'm going to take is Ice Knife, Fairy Fire, Enhanced Leap, and Thunder Wave. Moving on to level 2, this is where we're going to get our subclass. So of course we're going to go the Circle of Spores Druid, and if you haven't seen my Baldur's Gate 3 best multi-class builds video, there'll be a card up here, but this is actually going to be based off of my initial build in that video, so we are going Circle of Spores for this build. So the two biggest things that we do get here as a Circle of Spores Druid level 2 is access to Symbiotic Entity and Halo of Spores. Symbiotic Entity is really nice because it's going to give us some extra temporary hit points and then give us 1d6 necrotic damage on our weapon attacks and our unarmed strikes, which is going to be super useful later on when we start doing all of our flurry of blows attacks with the monk. And on top of that, we also get Halo of Spores, which is going to be a reaction that's going to give us a little bit extra damage output every single round. And lastly, you are going to get another level 1 spell here, so feel free to pick literally whatever you want. Alright, so starting at level 3 all the way up to level 5, this part is really simple. You're going to take your level in Monk, and then you're going to go all the way up to level 5 as a monk, and this is where you're going to pick your Way of the Open Hand subclass. Alright, so now we are level 6, which means we are level 4 monk, which means we're going to get a feat or an ASI. Now what I'm going to recommend doing is I'm going to recommend putting your wisdom up to 19 and then going and getting the Hag's Hair, so that way you can get a +1 to any ability score. Put that +1 in wisdom. You'll have 20 wisdom super early on in the game with your first ASI, which is super nice. However, if you don't want to grab the Hag's Hair for whatever reason, then just put a point in wisdom and then put a point in constitution to bump them both up to the next level. Moving on to level 7, this is a really simple level, but it's really powerful because we get access to extra attack as well as stunning strike, and we both know how powerful both of those abilities are. So now that we are level 8, we are now monk level 6, which means we get access to manifestation of soul, body, and mind, and this is a really nice feature that's just going to add a little bit of extra damage to our unarmed strikes. So moving on to level 9, we are now switching back to Druid and then taking Druid levels all the way for the rest of the levels up to level 12. So you're going to get access to 2 level 2 spells here. You can pick whatever you want. I'm going to pick Hold Person because hold personing a specific enemy and being the living crap out of them as a monk is super powerful. And as for your second option, you can pick literally whatever you want here. Alright, so moving on to level 10, we're putting another point in Druid, and this is going to give us access to a couple of things. First off, cantrip, you can take whatever you want here, really doesn't matter, personal preference at this point. And same thing goes for spells. You're going to get access to a couple level 2 or 1 spells if you prefer. Go ahead and take whatever you want. The important thing here is going to be the feat or ASI. I'm personally taking ASI, and I'm going to bump my dex up to 18. This is going to be really helpful for what we're doing as a monk, and because we're still not going to wear armor with this build, it's going to also help increase our armor class as well. However, if you do want to take a feat, then go ahead and pick whatever feat you want of your choice, but personally I think it's more powerful to take an ASI at this point. So moving on to level 11, we are now Druid level 5, which means we get access to level 3 spells. You can take whatever you prefer here. There is something to note. You are going to get 2 level 3 spells as part of your subclass. That's going to be Animate Dead and Gaseous Form. Animate Dead is super important here because this is going to allow us to become like this monk leader of the undead and have an undead army backing us up which is going to make us an incredibly menacing force to deal with on the battlefield. So in terms of your other level 3 spells, you can pick whatever you want. I prefer to take Plant Growth and Call Lightning here, but again, the choice is completely up to you. So for level 12, our final level, we're going to be putting another point into Druid, which is going to give us access to another level 3 spell slot. Once again, feel free to pick whatever you want here. The important thing we're going to get here is an ability called Fungal Infestation. This is going to be a reaction and a class action, and what this is going to do is allow you to pick a corpse that's going to be either beast or humanoid, and you're going to raise a zombie from it. Now what's special about this zombie is that its attacks do apply debuff on enemies, so that way that when it does slay enemies, it does cause them to spawn additional zombies. So you can quickly amass a huge army, and you literally could play this build solo and have an army following you, and you'll destroy literally everything. Alright, so moving on to the equipment section, I have a couple different equipment popping up on the screen here, but if you do want a more full and comprehensive list of equipment and where to get them, then make sure to check the description box down below, and you can find a full list of every single individual piece of equipment that I do recommend for this build. So for the build recap, at this point when we do combine everything that we have access to, we are going to be outputting an insane amount of damage with this build. We are going to have our quarterstaff, which is going to be buffed up with a +5 thanks to our 20 in wisdom, so we're going to be able to make some main hand attacks, some stunning strikes, and that's going to do a lot of damage. But then we're also going to have our flurry of blows, as well as just our unarmed strikes as a bonus action, so we're going to be outputting a lot of damage with that. We're going to have our symbiotic entity, so we can use our reaction on our turn to do even more damage. We're going to have a lot of tankiness thanks to the symbiotic entity temporary health that we get, and we're going to have access to a bunch of different spells. So whether we're in melee or range combat, we're going to have a ton of crowd control options, as well as a ton of really good damaging spells. So combining all that together, on top of all that, we are also going to be able to amass a huge zombie army. So really this build is going to bring so much to the table. You are truly going to be a one-man army with this build. You're going to be like this Arcane Fist leader of the undead monk, and I think it's super cool. It's a ton of fun to play, and it's incredibly powerful. Go try this build out. Let me know what you think about this build down in the comment section down below, and also in the pinned comment there is going to be a link to a poll for next week's build video, so make sure to go and vote on that, so that way you can get your build seen and spotlighted in these videos. But that is all for me today. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to leave a like if you did, and hit that subscribe button so you can see other Baldur's Gate 3 build videos that I do, and I will see you in the next one.